You ever feel like the world of cyber attacks is just, well, a constant barrage of new threats, new jargon? It can be overwhelming trying to make sense of it all.
It really can.
And a listener actually asked recently about how we even begin to understand these modern attacks. That simple question sort of sent us down this interesting rabbit hole.
Yeah, it did.
It turns out the way we've been thinking about attacks for years, this established model, well, it might not be cutting it anymore.
That's right. For, gosh, a long time now, the cyber kill chain has been hugely influential. It really shaped how people visualize, how they analyze the stages of an attack.
Okay.
But we've been digging into some, pretty compelling arguments suggesting this framework might be losing its grip on reality, especially with today's threats.
Okay, so let's unpack that, this foundational idea.
Right.
What is the cyber kill chain, the CKC?
Right, CKC. So it was developed by Lockheed Martin way back in 2011, and it essentially breaks down an attack into 7 distinct phases in sequence.
7 steps.
First is reconnaissance. That's the attacker figuring out the target, doing their homework.
Yeah.
Then comes weaponization. That's where they exploit the method to use a weakness and the payload, which is the actual malicious code.
Got it. So scouting and building the weapon, what's next?
Next up is delivery. Getting that weapon to the target, maybe an email, maybe a dodgy website.
Okay.
Exploitation follows. That's the attacker actually using the exploit to get in. Then installation, putting malware on the system, maybe so they can stick around.
Right, so they can maintain access. This is where they really dig in.
Exactly. And after installation, you get command and control, or C2. Basically, setting up a phone line back home, letting the attacker control the compromised system remotely.
Right.
And the final step, actions on objectives. This is the end game. What they came to do, steal data, deploy ransomware, cause disruption, whatever it is.
Huh. There's even a mnemonic, right?
Yeah.
RWD Aikikaba.
Yeah, RWDA pair. Helps keep the steps straight. Reconnaissance, weaponization, delivery, exploitation, installation, command and control, actions on objectives.
Handy. But you said there were big criticisms now. What's the main issue people have with this model?
Well, the fundamental problem really is that it's so linear. The CKC assumes attackers follow this single, predictable path, always starting outside the network, moving through steps 1 to 7.
Okay.
But the reality of modern attacks, it's often far messier, much more dynamic. This linear view can mean companies focus too much on stopping that first step, the initial breach.
Right, like building a bigger wall.
Exactly. And maybe they underinvest in spotting an attacker who's already inside and moving around laterally. That lateral movement is critical in so many attacks, like ransomware.
So it's not as simple as a straight line from, A to G anymore.
Not at all, no. Nowadays, threats can absolutely originate from inside the network. Think about, say, a compromised employee account.
Right. They're already past the front door.
Precisely. They've bypassed those early external stages. Or think about the cloud. The whole idea of a traditional network perimeter that the CKC kind of relies on, it's just not as clear-cut in the cloud.
Yeah, it's fuzzier.
An attacker might jump between different cloud services, not following that strict outside-in path at all.
Makes sense. The whole battlefield has changed. And I guess the attackers have changed their tactics too.
Absolutely. They don't always politely go through step 1, then step 2. They might jump around, use multiple entry points at once, exploit things in unexpected ways.
Like that lateral movement you mentioned.
Yeah, that's a prime example. Once they get a foothold somewhere, they might just move sideways, exploring system after system, looking for the good stuff. It's definitely not always sequential.
Wow, okay, so they could be coming from almost anywhere inside once they breach something.
That's often the case, yes.
So the key takeaway here seems to be that this idea of a linear kill chain, well, maybe useful back then, it just doesn't quite capture the complexity, the fluidity of how attacks really happen now, especially with cloud everywhere and these smarter attacker tactics.
Precisely. Those linear assumptions from, 2011, they just don't fully align with today's multifaceted threat environment. It's outdated.
Okay. So if this really well-established model, the CKC, is showing its age, it really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
If that traditional view doesn't fully capture modern threats, particularly in complex cloud setups, what does that mean for how we're trying to defend ourselves right now? Are the strategies, the tools we rely on, still the best way to tackle these evolving attacks? Definitely something to chew on.